Okay, this video is a book review. The name of the book is called Eloquence. It's about public speaking, and Hidden Secrets of Words is the subtitle. The author's name is Peter Andrei. What's going on is I just moved out and I got all these stacks of books, and so I'm going to do a couple quick book reviews on them and summarize them. Anyways, he's a smart young guy. He was a debate champion in Massachusetts, and he even runs a website on teaching people public speaking skills. So what's good about him is he does know a lot about public speaking. He's good at it. He's aware of all the little nuance of rhetoric. He's competed in it, so that's all good. What do I say is bad about it? He's really young, so he doesn't have a solid core identity, I think, in his approach. Like as an author, his voice is not clear. An author, a really good author, has a strong voice. You know where they're coming from. You hear their personality ring through it. He sort of doesn't have a moral foundation. He just seems to go with whatever catches his attention at the moment. But there's no solid core feeling when you read his work. It's because he's young. He lacks life experience. So here's just some things that are in the book. Humans think in narratives. And you've heard that in a lot of different ways. Basically, you put something in a story, people understand it. If you just present disconnected facts like they do in public schools, people tend to forget everything. Alliteration is the bedrock of eloquence. Yeah, if you want something memorable, alliteration's usually good. He mentions the old Aristotle guide. Everybody knows ethos, logos, and pathos. Ethics, or taking the moral high ground. Logos, the logic. Pathos is the emotion. That's all good. But he also reminds people kairos is part of it, okay, which means timing. You got to have a sense of the timing. And usually what you go by is, if you have a good internal judge, you go by what feels right. And a good thing to do, of course, is give your presentation to a friend or have a conversation with a friend about the topic, and then immediately go and write your speech or your presentation, because that conversation guides you to what works in a conversation. Repetition is inherently eloquent and solidifies a neural association. So what that means is, if you put two things together, you constantly associate things. So if you want to make thing number one look good, make sure you associate it with a good thing for thing number two. And the converse is true as well. If you want to make something or somebody look bad, repeatedly associate them with something negative, for example. Okay, emotion produces engagement. Yeah, that's pretty well known. People care a lot more about their emotions than facts. If you usually want to start a presentation or a book with something positive to suggest an approach or a positive title, negative emotions tend to get people to avoid something. So it depends on the context, but usually you want to start positive, and Goethe had already, made that point pretty clear. Okay, to associate two things, repeatedly put them together in a sentence or on a poster. So you'll see when the person making the poster wants to make something look good, they associate it with something good, okay? Pattern interrupt. So there's basic expected patterns in sentences and common phrases, and when you change them, that gets a person's attention, because the brain's designed to pay attention to change, because it's potentially dangerous. A predictable thing tends to be safe. So a pattern interrupt gets a person's attention, and then will potentially get them to remember it. He uses the phrase micro interrupt for just changing something at the level of one word. He does also talk, I mentioned rhyme in here somewhere, I'll come back to that, but there's different forms of connecting words. You can connect them with alliteration, with consonants, and of course with rhyme. What creates curiosity? Asking questions, and you leave the loop open for a moment, and they want to close the loop. They want to answer the question, so that produces engagement, and rhetorical questions are very engaging. They can also be persuasive, because the person answers the question for themselves, and in so doing, they realize it from within, and that has an intellectual appeal, that they figured it out themselves. So here's a cover of the book, of course, Eloquence. Inclusive pronouns means, words that include the person, like we and our. He says those have inherent psychological appeal. When you make a phrase, it's good to put it in a rhyme, like the key phrase of a presentation or a case. It's just because it'll be easier to remember, and it sounds more truthful. Like, classic rhyming phrase would be the Johnny Cochran acquittal of O.J. Simpson, where he said, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. And there's a whole bunch of those type of rhyming phrases. What sobriety conceals, alcohol reveals. Okay, other quotes by Peter Andrei. The human mind is designed to conserve attention. It will only expend mental calories on things that help survival and to thrive. If the language is too abstract and difficult to grasp, the mind will disengage. Why? Because the calorie expenditure is too high for too little perceived reward. There was also this lawyer guy, I think his name was Gary Spence, and what he basically said is abstract words don't heat the blood. Okay. All right. And another point, too, is, I'm currently reading a book called How to Make It Stick. It's kind of a boring book. I zoomed through it. And basically, the author's key point is you got to use concrete words if you want to make something memorable. Where necessary, throw in an abstract word, but concrete words, something a person can see is memorable. Abstract is something you think about, but you can't really see it. Okay, you need transitions between topics or people get confused. If they're confused, they stop listening. Explain transitions, guarantee coherence. So anyways, for somebody just kind of new to studying public speaking, I think you'll find Peter Andrei helpful. He's written a bunch of books. His books tend to be, I read like 3 of them. They tend to say about the same thing. But he is good. He is smart. He knows what he's talking about within that context. So anyways, I think Brian Tracy will take you farther than him. But he's more, what he's got that Brian Tracy isn't as good at is he's better on, Peter Andrei's better on the stuff like the rhetoric, sort of the trained skills. Whereas Brian Tracy's more better about the emotional skills of making a good presentation and stuff. They're both really good. They're both good. I mean, they're both worth reading. So anyways, hope this was helpful.